Good afternoon. Welcome to our Emmy chat with at the LATimes.com. And we're talking today with a man that I'm glad to say is very much alive, very well, and looking great, is Michael Cudlitz of The Walking Dead and Southland and so many other things. Welcome.
Thank
So
you.
good to see you. You
Thanks
look
for
really
having me
good.
here. Thank you.
Very different hair.
Very different. Very different. A lot of people don't know that the red was for Scott Gimple when he introduced these characters into the TV show. Wanted the characters to represent much closer to the comic than they had been, and the color cover of the comic, Abraham has this sort of bright orange Scooby-Doo Thelma hair.
So was that your hair or a wig? Or?
No, it was my hair, but they
Yeah.
dyed it.
Boy,
They
very, very different. Very,
dyed it.
very cool. So it's good, so good to see you. I want to jump right into it.
Sure.
Go back at the time capsule a couple of seasons ago. We had a cliffhanger where Rick and the group were lined up in a very forbidding dark clearing, and they were confronted by a very bad guy, Negan, with a baseball bat
He's just misunderstood.
wrapped in barbed wire, and he said he's going to take his vengeance out on one of you. We see him play this game of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and then he picks one person who we don't see, and we hear the screen goes black, and we hear the rather brutal, disgusting sounds of someone's skull getting bashed in. And
Yay!
we have to wait
It's
months.
the funniest episode ever.
We have to wait months later to find out who it is. The fans are in agony.
Yep.
And it turns out that it's you, Sergeant Abraham Ford.
Yes.
First of all, what is harder, getting killed or having to keep the secret that you've been?
The getting killed wasn't bad. I was a fan of the show before I came on to the show, and I had seen my favorite characters on the show get killed off. So I've been taking the hard line of if you've come on the show as an actor from third season on, and you were surprised when you were told you're going to die, you're a moron, because that's what they do on the show. You come there to die. For me, I knew, having known the graphic novels, having known the lifespan of Abraham in the graphic novels, knew that my life in the graphic novels had, comparatively come to an end. I knew I was close to where my character passed in the novel, so I was not surprised when I got the phone call.
So was it a phone call?
It was a phone call. It was a phone call that there was going to be a meeting next week, and I hadn't had a meeting with Scott in that way ever. So I called him and I said, I'm up here visiting my son in San Jose. What's the meeting about? Are you killing me? He's like, well, I want to have a meeting. He's like, just let me know if you're killing me. So I could say, well, yes, we think. And I said, okay, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, we think we are, but we're not sure when, and let's discuss it. I said, okay, I just wanted to know if that's what we were talking about, so I can process it and not wonder about it, because it has to do with me. It had to do with logistics of my apartment and living there and being in Atlanta versus being in LA. So it's not just you're going to be in the episode or you're not going to be in the episode. There's a whole life change that
Sure.
happens with that. So mine was a phone call, and we talked about it, and he was very appreciative that I was understanding about it. But I knew. I knew it was time.
So even though you knew, does the reality of it just sort of take it to another level?
Look, it's always sad to leave a place where you're working, where the working conditions are fantastic. The stories were great. The people were great. So it wasn't sort of like, yeah, I'm leaving, great. It was sort of like, oh, okay, I understand that. I processed that, and I've been killed from shows before. But the actual leaving of that group, sure, it was sad.
And you were very well established as one of the. Your character was just a lightning. Everyone loved.
Yeah,
Abraham.
the fans were very, very welcoming and very loving to Abraham, and we feel that, every week, and when we travel, and it was nice to be, included that much and that quickly by the fan base.
What was the most best part for you in playing that character? What did you enjoy most?
Honestly, the fan reactions afterwards, seeing how what I was doing, because it was definitely something way over the top. I think that we were talking earlier about Fear of the Walking Dead. I think one of the things that our show has is that we almost have a permission slip so far as our reality to make things a little bit bigger, because we are based on the graphic novel, and you have these characters that, Abraham with the mustache and the sort of the ridiculous sort of way he presents himself, and I don't mean it in a bad way. Ridiculous is fine. You have Michonne with the sword and Daryl with the crossbow. Highly, highly ineffective weapon.
Absolutely.
We have crossbow. We have fire, shot, weapon. Reload, back. There's a lot of moving parts to that. Tyrese with the hammer. This and that. Like if one of our characters was to show up in the other world, they wouldn't mesh, because Fear is based much more in a realistic reality, where ours,
Right.
I believe, is a heightened reality because of the graphic novel. So for me, like the fan reaction to what we're doing, the fan acceptance of what we're doing, was the most fun. I've been very fortunate. I've been doing this a long time, and this is the first time that you really felt something come back, from the fans when you had done something the week before.
So let's go to that night when you're filming that scene. And from what I've understood, that it was a grueling experience.
It was. We always talk about the heat in Atlanta, but what we don't always talk about is near the end of our season, we finish up our season approximately November 20th, the 21st. As we get into the end of October and into November, it starts to get really, really cold in the mornings, in the evenings in Atlanta, and in Georgia in general. And so when we're doing that, we were in, mid to late November at night on our knees. It was freezing cold, and there were multiple takes with multiple cameras, and we were pretty much in that semicircle on our knees, probably for a good 3.5, 4 hours straight. If you were to sort of put it all together over the course of the 12-hour night, there's a good 3.5, 4 hours where you're on your knees. And if anyone, you're in that position, and I chose to be in an upright position on my knees, which is, I regret it at the probably 30 minutes into it, but was happy with the end result. But it was physically very taxing.
And your performance during that scene, I mean, it was very strong, which made
It was amazing.
It was
amazing.
Which made what happened even more devastating for all of us.
No, it was an interesting night. I had always, when I'd read the script, being a fan of the show, I wanted to make sure that my death didn't take away from Steven's death. I was very concerned about that as a fan of the show. We get a lot of people say, "Oh, Abraham died too," and I'm kind of happy that a majority of the focus leaned on Glenn's death, Steven Yeun's death, because I feel like Abraham had become part of the fabric of the show and become, important to the show. But I felt that Steven and Glenn made the show. I watched him grow up as an actor. Steven and Melissa McBride, two favorite actors and characters on the show when I was watching it before I entered the show. And then when I got on the show, obviously opened up to a bunch of the other cast and, all a really, really talented group of people. But those two characters in particular, I felt had the greatest arcs that I enjoyed following most, and felt like they were sort of the heart and soul of the show, so far as the direction of the moral compass, if you will, always pulling everybody back, especially after Herschel had passed. So that night, saying goodbye to everybody through our work was sort of double-edged, making sure that it was all done properly, but also really making sure that and hoping that they were paying the proper homage to the Glenn character.
And of course, seeing what happened to you was even more traumatizing for us because you had this great bonding scene with Sasha, played by
Don't ever
Shani.
get happy.
Don't ever
get happy on The Walking Dead. If I can give any advice to any of the characters there, just always stay miserable. And you have a long life on the show. Don't get happy. Don't be hopeful. Don't have your plan set for the future. Just be miserable. Wallow in it. Skate it out.
So in filming that scene, you're struck in the head with this bat, and you're so strong, you don't go down. Which was very, it just said everything there was to know about that character. That his strength was he took it. There was no whining. There was no. I mean, he just faced his fate bravely. So the process of your just performance during that, what was that like?
You know what? It was all written. Not to take anything away from what we do, but all of that stuff was written in there. There were some I did present myself. I chose that Abraham would really sort of present himself to Negan, but I felt that was him being a soldier. That was him sort of finally being able to. He knew he had assessed this whole situation. He knew someone in the group had to go, and him sort of being the ultimate soldier was going to take it for the next guy. He was willing to give his life for the group, and willing to give it. I mean that very strongly. He knew someone was going to go, and he hoped, and he really wished that it was him. And I think that from the flip side of it, Negan sees that he is one of the strongest physically, at least from a size standpoint, and I think that and he kind of tips his hand that he almost thinks that I'm Rick's right hand. Mm-hmm. So I am the one who he's going to make an example of, and I'm okay with that.
And there's a line which we can't say on live Facebook, sure. But there was a very definitive line which really sort of encapsulates what your character stands for. Did you, when you watched that episode, when you watched yourself actually being dispatched, what was your reaction to seeing what happened to you?
It's hard to separate all the technical stuff because there's a lot of prosthetics that are involved with that night where, myself and Steven we'd shoot one baseball bat hit and then they'd take us out and change us, into a different prosthetic piece, and there's a lot of moving parts to that. Up until the actual hit, though, everything is pretty seamless. Repeat your question.
What was it like watching yourself get killed?
All right. It was not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's
horrible for us.
Of course it is, but we're literally, that for us, that moment is broken down into 2 nights of 6 hours of each night of prosthetics.
Yeah.
So for us it's a very technical thing. So we're looking to see if that technically looks good as opposed to, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Now when I saw Steven, Glenn, the Glenn character get beaten, for me was horrific. Like I said, it was one of my favorite characters. So I think from an acting standpoint, you look at it and you know how the audience is going to react, but you don't react the same way because you are so much a part of it.
It's interesting. There are lots of people who have questions for you, so I wanted to a lot of Walking Dead and non-Walking Dead. There's one fan who's asking, was it hard playing the guy Brenda Walsh was not interested in whatsoever in 90210?
I don't think I like your attitude, buddy. I think Brenda was very interested in Tony. You have no idea what happened in between. So I'm just going to leave it at that. It's all right. Next question.
Natalie wants to know if there's any chance of a Southland movie.
Oh, we hope so. Everybody is involved who was involved with it is interested in doing that.
Yeah. Southland, by the way, is this really revolutionary police show that you were such a important part of.
Southland was amazing. We got to sort of reinvent how stories are told on television. I mean, I don't. That sounds like a huge claim, but we did.
It was guerrilla filming,
and it didn't always work. And then we would build on things when it didn't work, but when it worked, it was amazing. And I'm so honored to be a part of that. And the cast that we had: Ben McKenzie, Regina King, Sean Hattasey, and then when we were over at NBC, the cast was probably twice as big: Kevin Alejandro, Michael McGrady, Arya. I mean, it was just the people that were involved in it: Chris Chulak, Ann Bitterman. It was. John Wells had told us when we were first doing the pilot. He says, "I don't want you to look at this as a linear narrative. I want you to look at this as sort of a composition, a piece of music. So a bunch of things are going to happen during this composition, and it's not necessarily going to be narrative or linear, but by the end of it, you're going to feel an emotional sort of catharsis, and that's what we're trying to do. We're not necessarily trying to solve a case every week, because that's not what happens.
Right.
But we are trying to make you feel something every week. And I couldn't be more proud to be part of that. And we do hope that we can do something like they do with Sherlock, do one or two here and there every, couple of years when we're all available. I think the audience would love it.
That would be amazing. How does, there's another fan who wants to know, how does Abraham, I guess, feel about Eugene being a savior?
I've been asked this before. I don't think this would surprise Abraham at all.
Really?
Yeah. I think he might bash him in the face again, but ultimately, and I've said this before, there'll be two things left at the end of the zombie apocalypse: cockroaches and Eugene.
Really?
He's a survivor. He is doing exactly what Eugene has done from day one. So there is no surprise. That doesn't mean he's not going to grow. That doesn't mean that he might not surprise us. But I don't think that he, at this point, has done anything that is out of character at all. At all.
You two had great chemistry, by the way.
Yeah, Josh is fantastic to work with.
A few fans want to know if you kept anything from the set, and if you didn't, what would you want to have?
If I kept things, that would be stealing. And we don't steal anything. We wouldn't steal a jacket that had fur around the collar. We wouldn't steal a knife or any cigars or nothing. We would not do that. That would be wrong, and we would not do it.
Good to know. You're
yes.
Law-abiding.
Stay in school.
Marsha wants to know, if you met Negan, how would you react as opposed to how Abraham reacted?
If I met Negan, not if I met Jeffrey.
Yeah.
If I met Negan. I would have been dead a long time ago in the zombie apocalypse. I wouldn't have met Negan. Yeah, I don't know.
You don't think you would have done well in zombie apocalypse?
No, maybe, but no. When everyone's sort of like, yeah, I would have done this, I just probably would have rolled over and died. I don't know. It's not gonna ever happen. Come on.
How would you like The Walking Dead to end?
I used to guess things, and I stopped doing that because I realized that we're asked that question not incredibly often, but often enough that over the years that with each of us being asked it, one of us might come up with the actual ending, and I would hate for that to be out there. I know that Robert has an ending for it. He knows in his mind how it's going to end. I don't know if specifically, but he knows what the ending is, and much like the people, who spoil things on the internet that I don't like, I'm just going to suggest that we all watch and see,
Oh, I just say.
because television is not a democracy.
To be part of both Southland and The Walking Dead, two iconic shows. I mean, that's
Yeah.
got to be just really gratifying.
I'm really fortunate. I've been, and Band of Brothers on top of that. I sometimes look back at the things I've done, and I'm sort of overwhelmed, because I have been given a lot of really wonderful opportunities and been able to work with a lot of really amazing people over the years. You don't choose things when you go into them because you think, oh, that's going to be, an iconic show, or that's going to have, this kind of impact. You choose things because there's stories. If you have a choice, you choose things because they have stories that impact you personally, and it's nice to know that my taste is in alignment with what people want to see. So it's cool.
And with The Walking Dead, you didn't totally say goodbye because we saw you in the
I know.
in the finale.
I know. It was crazy.
What was that like?
That was kind of awesome. Going back, being able to go back home. That was that kind of a feeling. The scenes with myself and Sonequa. It was basically a 12 or 13 page scene that they broke up over the course of the episode. So when we shot it, we squished it all in together and made it one continuous scene from beginning to end. And because it is broken up the way it is, the transitions weren't always really smooth. So Greg Nicotero let us play through all that and make those transitions. So ultimately, it wound up being like a 15-minute or 16-minute take for each take of the scene, but we got to play with that and find cool things in the relationship, some of which stayed in because they found other things within the scene as we did, and they used it when they edited. But it was nice. It was nice to go back and feel that family again and be welcomed back and to be able to work with everybody one more time.
How do you develop chemistry with someone who's going to play your lover on a show that you don't really have that kind of relationship with?
Well, come on, dude. Look at this. How do you...
Well, okay. I'm sorry. That was a really stupid question.
Thank you for saying
Okay,
it.
I'm
'Cause
sorry. I apologize.
No, you don't. Like chemistry just happens. It's. I think you can open yourself up to experiencing new things and new people. And as an actor, I think if you're open, you can have chemistry with almost anybody. I've been again fortunate. Over the years, the last couple of projects, I've had amazing respect and amazing chemistry with my partners. When I was working with Ben McKenzie, when we started working, we come from very different places and had come from very different places in our career. And when we started working together, there was an immediate chemistry between us. And I think that was because of our willingness to be open with each other, and not sort of either one of us take control or think the other one knows better. But you look for the answers in the other person. And I think that's with all actors. I think that's where it comes from, is a willingness to trust the other person. And be open and let not only the other actor in, but that also lets the audience in. And I think that when it's really there, the audience feels like they're sharing something or watching something almost that they shouldn't be seeing. So it's one of those intangible things that when it happens, you know.
You guys had real electricity.
She's amazing as well, just amazing.
Since you reappeared in the finale, do you think there might be some more flashbacks for you?
That I don't know, because I only found out about going back for the finale about 2.5 weeks before I went back. It was never in the plan that I knew. Scott and Robert Kirkman keep that stuff pretty close to the vest.
Close to the vest.
And there was a possibility that I wasn't even available, so it's
Right.
like, they had a lot of balls up in the air.
Yeah.
But certainly it could happen with any of the characters. They've well established that is one of their ways of telling stories. There's a tremendous amount of history that we don't know anything about. We really don't know, the real backstory with what happened with the group between Abraham, Eugene, Abraham, Rosita. They could certainly go back there. They could certainly go use Eugene as a catalyst to go back to what he's learned or what he was told. They could go back to conversations. They can go back with Maggie to Glenn to see stuff that we haven't seen. Any of these characters that have left the show can certainly come back from a storytelling standpoint. I mean, we're not told.
You're not told
Until it happens.
So you're all in the dark.
Exactly.
I don't know what this means. Will you continue to do Walker Stalker cons?
Oh, the conventions. Yeah.
Oh, that's what that means.
I will continue. That's one of the sort of amazing byproducts of all of this is meeting the fans, especially the families and the little kids. It's just it is something I never even dreamed of, and it's amazing.
Is it surprising you that the Walking Dead's sort of a family show? I mean,
yeah. Well, people are like, every Sunday we get together. The whole, we used to be us, like Mutual of Omaha, and then Disney. Now I'm really dating myself, but now it's like, yeah, we get together for The Walking Dead. And you're like, okay, all right. But it is. Parents tell us all the time, and that's not an exaggeration. They say it's the only thing that me and my teenage kid connect on. But we connect on that, and we get together every Sunday night. We watch it. A lot of people have viewing parties at home, and they all watch it together and talk about it, and then watch the Talking Dead afterwards,
Right.
And discuss, the show and all things related to it. And it's great. I mean, I think it's great if it pulls them together and has them talking about things.
hey, whatever works.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever works. Got a little lightning round, too, that we wanted to
All right.
put you through.
Boxers, Breeze. No. Damn it.
What was the last show you binge watched?
In the process of I had to stop because my wife was out of town, but we were binging Taboo. Actually, I finished Taboo. Sorry, babe.
Oh,
Out there now.
is this your way of telling her that you...
It is. Just how it is. She's ahead of me on Handmaid's Tale, though. So,
Okay.
And I was going to wait for her, and she's like, "Oh no, I watched when you were out of town."
So it all works out.
Yeah, sort of. I'll watch again.
Okay. What show that you love would you want to sit and watch someone else enjoy for the first time?
What show do I watch? Would I like to watch someone else enjoy for the first time? Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Could be a bunch of things. I'm just throwing out Game of Thrones.
If you could go back and be on any classic show, what would it be?
MASH.
Ooh.
Got a who from him. I got a grunt from somebody behind the curtain you can't even see. They're all back there watching Jeff Sessions. Crazy.
Why MASH?
Because it's probably still one of the best TV shows, if not the best TV show ever on TV.
Wow.
So,
What genre would you like to try? Rom-com, musical, sci-fi, costume?
definitely not musical, although that would be funny. Sci-fi. I want to be. I do. I do a western.
Yeah,
Sci-fi. Maybe do a western in space.
that'd be cool.
What does that mean?
That'd be cool. Walter White or Tony Soprano?
Walter White. I couldn't.
No hesitation there.
No hesitation there. I never understood the. To me, Tony Soprano was like the governor. I never really understood how he stayed in power.
Wow.
So like Merle's going to kill the governor, like in real life. I was like, all these dudes would take him out. Tony Soprano the same way.
That's very cool.
That's just me.
Well, I can't thank you enough. It's good to see you looking so handsome
And
good.
alive.
And alive. That's the most important thing. Thank you so much, Michael.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And for this and more chats with our Emmy folks, please tune in to latimes.com. Thank you very much.